Hi everyone and welcome to another video. Today I will talk about why I like human design, and I would most like to hear from you. What is it about human design that you like? How is it beneficial for you? How it adds value to your life? Anything you feel like sharing, please do feel free to write down below in the comment section. I would love to read it, and I'm sure other people would love that as well. Okay, I first want to put out a disclaimer that I find several other systems and modalities, such as Western and Vedic astrology or gene keys, for example, as valuable as human design. I don't believe in one size fits all methodology, and that applies to therapy and anything really. It just doesn't work for me, but if it does for you and it meets your needs, stick to it because that is your truth and your truth matters. I'm just sharing that because I want to be fully open about where I stand. Okay, why do I like human design or modalities as such? We are part of nature as well as part of something magical. Unless we experience trauma, which is not a subject of this video, my basic premise is that we are all here to grow, develop, unfold, be curious, to expand like a tree and beyond. That is our natural process. And because we can't rationally capture and explain everything that's going on in our lives, I believe that modalities such as human design help bridge that gap between the abstract and the rational, or mystical and earthly matters. So let's start with the assumption that every human being is curious about themselves. Would you agree with that? I'm most definitely super curious about myself. I want to know everything. I want to know my shadow. I want to know where my blind spots are. I mean, not every day, but when I'm open, which I'll talk in a second. Yeah, I'm just very interested in human nature. All right, so human design can, for example, open doors that perhaps other types of experiences can do for us. When we are open and willing to learn about our chart or about ourselves for that matter, we create a space to first welcome that novelty, which leads to change, and secondly, help us expand our self awareness, which I find is very powerful. So I'll give you an example. Imagine someone telling you something about yourself which might be maybe on a verge of triggering, and it definitely caught you unprepared. They might say something like, "You're this way," or "You're that way," or whatever that is. Would you agree that that situation with a friend or whomever that was is quite different than when you actually want to learn about yourself? In the latter state, you might stumble across the same information about yourself, but because of your openness to receive, there is probably less resistance in you, and chances are you're taking in the information with curiosity and open attitude, as I already mentioned. And that is the first step to change. And as I mentioned before, building on self awareness, which is, in my opinion, the biggest catalyst for any change. Because without self awareness, we are walking in this world asleep to our instinct, behavior patterns, traumas, beliefs, anything really. What we don't see or recognize can actually own us. All right. The other thing I love about human design, which adds to what I was just talking about, is I find it very valuable to start working on recognizing our strength and also our shadow part, because the shadow part is only a part of us which at some point, usually in childhood, didn't get the love that it deserved and was cast out. With modalities such as this one, we can be curious about our personality and welcome shadow with kindness and compassion. That way, we create unity and wholeness. Actually, we have been whole our whole time. What we might not have it is that our parts haven't integrated just yet into a cohesive form. So I would even like to go a step further to say that despite what I have just said about a system such as human design, which helps us recognize our personality or our blueprint, we are not at mercy of any system. This means we aren't defined by anything unless we want to be or unless that brings us the experience we are searching for. Why do I believe that? It stems from a scientific field called epigenetics, which consists of genetics, nature, and environment, nurture. As we all know, a gene is where information or our biological blueprint that was passed on from our ancestors is stored. What we mean by the environment is our socioeconomic status, education, relationship between caregivers and a child, and other environmental stressors. Basically, how the environment influences and shapes our development. And did you know that for human behavior, almost all estimates of heritability, things that we inherit, are in the range between 30 and 60%. That means if your folks had a high IQ or a talent for music, there is 50% chance that you will inherit that. And the remaining 50 is due to environmental factors, which I mentioned. What I'm saying is that the environment plays an important role in how we develop. Just think of it this way. You can have a gene for musical talent, but if your environment hasn't been supportive of that talent, you might first never even know that this talent or potential exists in you in the first place. And second, you might not fully develop it to the capacity you were given. Because did you know that environmental influences, or due to environmental influences, chemical modifications in our DNA are made, which can turn genes on and off? And isn't that amazing? So, there are two takeaways which I want to offer you. One is if the environment plays quite an important, or rather paramount role in your life, now that you are an adult, make sure your environment supports you. And how can you do that? Be curious, observe, make changes where necessary. And secondly, you might have potential or you might not have it, but still develop something to mastery. I remember a couple of years ago, I listened to a really good artist who said that he was never that kid whom everyone would ask if he could draw them something. He said he sucked at art completely. Those were his words. And he had to put in a lot of hours in his craft. And against all odds, he achieved mastery, which is an ongoing process, right? But he loves what he does. So that's the most important thing. And I also remember reading about Michelangelo, who said that if people knew about the amount of work he put into his art, they would never call him genius. So, my friend, you might have a blueprint, but it's up to you how you want to develop your life. If you don't have something in your chart, that's okay. Because if you have the inner drive to go after your passion, no matter what the genes or blueprint says, you can create your reality. You really can. To conclude, in my opinion, human design and systems as such are a tool to expand our mind, make sense of some of our experiences, help us grow, be curious about our human nature, help us accept it and transform it in a way that will bring us experiences that we desire and hopefully have more self compassion. Now, let me know what you think about human design. I would love to hear from you. Please write it in the comment section below and let's have this conversation, which I believe it's important. Thank you also for liking, subscribing, and sharing my content. I'm so appreciative of you. Thank you. See you next time. Bye bye.